War is often defined by its battles, its weapons, and its strategies, but some of the most incredible feats of courage and brilliance occur far from the front lines, deep behind enemy lines, where survival is a constant challenge and the stakes couldn't be higher. It is in these moments of extreme danger that soldiers have outwitted some of the most dangerous forces in history, using their intelligence, resourcefulness, and sheer will to not only survive, but to strike decisive blows against their enemies. One of the most extraordinary examples of this took place during World War II, a time when espionage, deception, and cunning were as important as firepower. Perhaps no story exemplifies this better than the mission of Major Hans-Ulrich, a German pilot who became one of the most skilled and deadly members of the Luftwaffe, but also one of the most unexpected examples of a soldier outwitting the enemy in a most extraordinary way. In the later years of the war, Rudel was tasked with a mission to destroy a Soviet military position that was nearly impenetrable. Behind enemy lines, Rudel faced unimaginable odds. Surrounded by enemy fire with limited ammunition, he and his comrades used every trick in the book. Instead of relying on brute force, Rudel used deception, outsmarting the Soviet forces by drawing them into a false sense of security and then launching a surprise attack. His bold strategy, combined with his unparalleled skill as a pilot, allowed him to not only survive, but complete his mission with devastating precision. It wasn't just Rudel's Air Force tactics that outwitted the enemy, but his ability to think beyond the conventional. As he faced down Soviet forces with minimal support, he showed that war isn't just about fighting, it's about using your mind, your creativity, and your resolve to bend the rules of the battlefield to your advantage. But behind enemy lines wasn't just the domain of pilots and commanders. The Vietnam War offers another incredible example of soldiers outwitting the enemy in their own terrain. The U.S. Navy SEALs were often called upon to infiltrate the dense jungles of Vietnam, operating in some of the most treacherous conditions imaginable. These soldiers knew they had to use everything at their disposal, stealth, speed, and knowledge of the terrain, to outwit the enemy forces that had mastered their own jungle environment. One famous example is the story of Operation Ivory Coast in 1970. A group of American prisoners of war had been captured by the North Vietnamese and were being held in a remote prison camp. The SEALs were tasked with infiltrating deep into enemy territory to rescue these prisoners. Without a traditional army to fall back on, the SEALs had to rely on their unparalleled training in hand-to-hand combat, tactics of deception, and the use of their surrounding environment. They spent days moving quietly through dense jungles, evading enemy patrols, and using the cover of night to close in on the prison camp. When the time came to strike, their precision and stealth allowed them to extract the prisoners without being detected, outwitting the enemy completely and ensuring the success of the mission. Similarly, the story of the Great Escape, made famous in film and book, demonstrates how soldiers can outwit their captors even when the odds are stacked against them. During World War II, British and Allied POWs in German prison camps devised one of the most audacious escape plans in history. They spent months, in some cases years, secretly tunneling through the earth beneath their prison. They outwitted the Nazi guards by constructing elaborate escape routes, using everyday objects to dig through concrete and creating a vast underground network. While not all the escapees made it to freedom, the courage and ingenuity of those involved in the Great Escape continues to be remembered as an example of how determination, intelligence, and a deep understanding of the enemy's weaknesses can lead to remarkable victories. Then there is the story of Colonel Cretan Abrams during the Korean War. Commanding the U.S. Army's 7th Infantry Division, Abrams found himself in a situation where conventional warfare simply wasn't enough. Behind enemy lines, where the terrain was mountainous and the enemy had the upper hand, Abrams used surprise and tactical deception to turn the tide. By creating false intelligence, spreading disinformation, and executing surprise nighttime raids, Abrams was able to disrupt enemy positions and cause confusion within their ranks. His ability to outthink and outmaneuver the enemy earned him a reputation as one of the most brilliant military minds of his time. Perhaps one of the most thrilling and perilous examples of soldiers outwitting the enemy comes from World War I, the tale of Lieutenant Colonel William "Billy" Bishop. Known as one of Canada's greatest air aces, Bishop's most famous exploit was a solo mission deep behind enemy lines during the war. On a single flight, Bishop shot down 3 German planes, a feat that had never been attempted before. Flying alone in his aircraft without the support of his comrades or any backup, Bishop used his quick thinking and deep understanding of enemy tactics to outmaneuver and destroy his foes. His bravery and audacity turned him into a legend, showing the world that even the most dangerous forces could be outwitted, even in the heart of enemy territory. These remarkable soldiers, whether in the air, on the ground, or in the shadows of enemy camps, show us that war is not only a test of strength, but a challenge of intellect and ingenuity. Behind enemy lines, soldiers don't always rely on brute force to win. Sometimes it's their ability to outsmart, outmaneuver, and outlast their opponents that makes all the difference. In the heat of battle, when everything seems lost, it's the quick-thinking heroes, the ones who refuse to be caught by the enemy's plans, who can change the course of history. The true lesson behind these tales is that even in the most dire of situations, the human spirit can rise above, using intelligence, creativity, and resourcefulness to defeat the most dangerous forces in history. These stories are more than just about soldiers who fought on the battlefield. They're about the minds that worked in the shadows, outwitting and overcoming the most powerful enemies in the world.